Hello guys, and welcome to our video. So I talk to a lot of people about real estate investing, a lot of students that I talk to and that I mentor, college students, older adults. I talk to a lot of college students, and many of them are very new to real estate. They're very interested in it, but they're new. They have, new credit. They may not have a lot of money to invest. But the one good thing about it is that they're young, and we can talk about the benefits of starting in real estate investing or any other type of investing, as a matter of fact, when you're young, and how having that time really plays out and can allow you to retire early or to dramatically increase your assets through compounding, even if it's real estate based compounding. But where my strength and specialty lies in is real estate investing, fixing up properties, particularly buy and hold. That's my personal passion and what I do mostly. I do flips and have worked with wholesalers, and I've owned commercial properties and all that kind of stuff. But really, where I'm most passionate about is creating long-term wealth, building a legacy to pass on to my family, my children, my descendants, and creating that sustainable wealth to allow us to retire early and live the kind of life that we want to live. But saying that, everybody has to get started someplace. So I want to put together this presentation to talk about real estate basics. So what every new investor should know and do. All right, so this video, we're going to cover the benefits of real estate investing. We're going to talk about how to get started, and we're going to talk about how real estate can lead to a road of financial independence. And, for my money, there's more people who achieve financial independence, who achieve that millionaire status, whether that be in terms of assets, net worth, or, in terms of passive income. They achieve it far more frequently through real estate than they do any other means. And certainly when it's done through real estate and it's done right, it's safer than pretty much any other form of investment that you could engage in. So what you do need to know overall are a couple of things. Is real estate investing, you're going to run into a lot of people that are going to want to sell you programs and sell you information and sell you mentoring packages and stuff like that. And what I've learned from those, and I'm not saying anything bad about them, I've actually done some of them myself, is they are a good way to learn information. And the vast majority of them that I've interacted with, certainly the ones that I've purchased and paid money for, they give you the basics and you learn. They in no way, shape, is a guaranteed road to success. So, I would say buyer beware, be careful. And if you're going to spend $40,000, $50,000, which some of the more popular programs are charging, at this stage in my investment career, I don't think that is really the best use of money. There's so many other ways to get that information, to get engaged in your real estate investing community, and to learn the things you're going to learn in those programs. But I will say that some of the programs are designed to give you some additional support. They may be set up with a hard money lending network. They may be set up with try to help send you leads. But by and large, most of those programs are trying to gear you to be a wholesaler and maybe teach you the fundamentals of flipping and things like that. But for $40,000, $50,000, that's a lot of money. And you could actually take that money and go buy a cash property in certain neighborhoods, or you could take that $40,000 or $50,000 and turn that into 5 rental properties, with a $10,000 down payment. Once again, depending on the neighborhood, the areas, and the cost of the property, but it's possible. And I can show you areas where you could do just that. So I say all that because it ties to the first bullet here. Don't get into real estate looking to get rich quick. And I know that's kind of the mindset, especially younger people. You want to get in, you want to make some money, you want to become rich, you want to be famous, you want to become the big dog. I've mentored a number of people over the years, and some of them had that mindset where they wanted to be rich and make money and be flashy, and others had a more basic, more conservative mindset. Those of the more conservative mindset tend to be more pragmatic, and I like working with them better than those that are a little bit more flashy. But if you're looking to get rich quick, real estate really is not the thing. There are some techniques you can use that are heavily focused on money and return on investment and all that kind of stuff. And but they're inherently more risky. So we're not going to talk about those things today. What we're going to talk about is for that average person out there who's just getting started and they're saving up money trying to get their first rental property. And they decided that, hey, I want to use real estate to either diversify my portfolio or to get to that place of financial independence. And it is very true. It is 100% true that you can retire using a real estate strategy within 5 to 10 years. And that is extremely aggressive if you take just the average approach to life and how long the average person takes till they get to retirement age. So it is possible, but with that, you have to be mindful of your cost of living. So what I would say is there is a trend, right? Not trend is the wrong word, but there's a organization called FIRE that you may want to look up, FIRE, and that's an acronym that stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. If you take some of the philosophies that are part of that organization and you pair that with real estate investing, specifically the basics that we're going to cover today, then your ability to retire within 5 to 10 years is incredibly realistic. It is very doable. And it doesn't matter if you're a 22-year-old just getting out of college, or if you're somebody who's 35 years old with a job and some kids and a family and a wife, or someone who's older than that. It definitely is possible, but it depends on the type of lifestyle that you choose. If you're trying to live a lifestyle where you require $200,000 or $300,000 a year to live off of, then obviously you've got to go and get that money passively, and that's going to be a greater challenge. But if you're a person, the average American family is bringing in, I believe the number is around $52,000 a year in terms of their household income. And that would be maybe 2 adults, right? So if you're trying to live off of $50,000 or $60,000 or $70,000 a year, or $100,000 a year, then combining the philosophy of FIRE along with real estate investing, it can definitely get you there within 5 to 10 years. You're going to work really hard to do it, but you can get there. It is completely doable. Real estate is very competitive. So beware, there's sharks out there. There are people out there who are looking to get your money, and they want to get it by any means necessary. These could be contractors. They could be very well other real estate investors, lenders. There's a lot of people out there. And right now, real estate investing is more popular than ever. You can simply do a YouTube search or a Google search and see all types of videos and advice, much like the video that I'm offering here. So, and why is that? Because it's very popular. Everybody wants to do it, and people understand the intrinsic value of it. And when they can't go make their own money, then they want to try to get your money. So just be aware of that. Listen to what people say, educate yourself, develop your own skills. In the business world, which I've taught a number of college classes and stuff like that, but one of the classes that I teach is KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities. That's what you need to know. So you need to develop and invest in your knowledge, your skills, and your abilities. And by doing that, you'll be ready for any opportunity that comes along. And you'll be aware enough to understand, this person is a shark. Don't really trust that person. This person is credible. They operate with integrity. I'm gonna work with that individual. Start small and then build up. And this is a very important thing that a lot of young people don't like to hear because they want to hit the ground running and just, 0 to 100 miles an hour. But it's best if you start small. One of the most pragmatic, practical things I could tell you is to buy a house for you to live in. That's the first thing. And like I said, I talk to a lot of college students, a lot of young people about real estate investing. And this is one of the first things I tell them: buy a house for you to live in. Matter of fact, when you buy it, make sure there's a little bit of work that needs to be done. That way you can get some experience doing some basic repairs. Maybe you install a floor or you put in some new doors, not work that's so bad that you can't get the proper financing for it, but work that you may come in and have granite countertops put in, or tile backsplash, or a tile with tubs around. You kind of update the house. Not only is that going to increase the value of the house, but it gives you experience at making some of those repairs. And I can tell you one thing: when working with contractors, you're going to hire somebody to do a job. Experience has been, for me in my investing career, has been one of the best things to help me be able to accurately price a job. And we could talk more about that later, but knowing how to do the work yourself puts you in a place where you always have the power. If you have to fire a contractor, then you can do so because you can go back in and finish that job yourself, or what needs to be done. So when they're doing it incorrectly, you can identify it quickly, stop them, and bring someone else in to finish it. Respect the process. To be a successful real estate investor, there's rules that you should follow. And you'll get these rules are the same rules. Nobody's inventing new rules. They're the same basic rules that every other real estate investor, every other mentor group is going to tell you. There's rules for hard money lending. There's rules for being a landlord. There's rules for being an investor. There's rules for property management. And when you understand those rules and those principles, you should respect and follow them because they'll keep you safe, right? So if you're going to buy something, you're going to get traditional financing through a bank. That bank is going to want you to put 20 to 30% down payment. They want you to have some equity in the game. So respect the process. If you're a new investor, you're just getting started, you don't really know what you're doing, respect the process. Don't go after that risky loan that allows you to put only 10% down. And I'm saying this from experience because I've done that early in my career as a young man. I went and started buying up properties and getting these kind of commercial and small real estate apartment buildings. And they said, oh, just put 10% down. I did so. And it was incredibly difficult for me to get that property to cash flow because the mortgage was so high. And the lower the down payment, the higher your interest rate is. So this is not as simple as that. Just respect the process. Your first property, go to a traditional bank. Matter of fact, when it comes to financing, you could always deal with hard money lenders, private investors, private lenders, and those guys. But they're in the game to make money, and you're going to be the person they're going to make money off of. And the value that they offer to you is the cash that they have. They're willing to give you money so you can go off and do something. And they're going to charge you a percent for that. Yeah, percentage could be anywhere from 8 to 12%, sometimes up to 14%. So whenever possible, work with a traditional bank for your first set of properties, until you get to the number of properties where the bank say, hey, you're a professional investor. We're no longer going to give you these low interest rates, or you kind of hit our number of properties that we'll allow a single investor to have with our bank. So now, we have to fund you from this other pool of money or whatever, just because you're gonna get the best interest rates from the banks, okay? And we could do another video on lending and some of the rules and philosophies around that. Okay, so we've already talked about your KSI, your KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities. And it's also important for you to understand the real estate strategy that fits your personality. You're going to intrinsically do better if you're engaging in work that fits your personality. It's more innate. Instead of putting on clothing that's too big for you, you put on clothing that's the right size, and it feels better. It makes you feel more attractive. You feel more confident when you're wearing clothing that fits you right. It's the same way when it comes to real estate investing. Know your personality and then find the investment style that matches that. I understand my personality, and I'm not a wholesaler. I'm not the kind of guy that wants to go out there and be doing wholesale deals. Now, I have no problem working with wholesalers, but I was able to easily take that out of the investment activities that I'm willing to consider doing. I like being an investor that is in the buy and hold field. So buying the house, fixing it up, renting it out. I am not a property manager. And we could do another video later on property managers and why I use them, why I think that they're important, and the value that they offer. There are some individuals that manage their own properties, right? So it's just different strokes for different folks, but you want to find the one that matches your personality that you can be successful at. And in general, there is a distinction that we make between investors and landlords. Landlords are individuals that kind of buy properties, they rent them out, they fix them up, they manage them themselves, they may do the repairs themselves. They're very, very involved in the day-to-day management activities of the property. They're interviewing potential clients, tenants to rent, they're doing reference checks, they're, all those kind of things. They're dealing with late payments, they're handling all that stuff hands-on. Investors don't tend to be that hands-on. Right? They're hands-on in the fact that they understand what's going on with the investment. They're deep in the purchasing process and make sure they're buying the property right, getting it renovated, but they may not be doing the renovation work themselves, and they may hire contractors to come in and do that. They will definitely have a property management company working for them. The primary function of an investor is to keep themselves in a position where they can always be ready to go out and get that next property as soon as possible. That's their strong suit. That's their KSA, is getting that money in position, getting that down payment, having the lenders on standby so that when the next opportunity comes by, they're ready to pounce on that. So an investor versus a landlord, two very different approaches. Know your personality, know the one that fits you best. Surround yourself with people that are like-minded, right? There's a saying, most everybody's heard this by now, but you reflect the 5 people that are closest to you, right? You kind of average them in terms of intelligence, life philosophies, income, lifestyle. You take the 5 people that are closest to you, and you'll find that you guys are extremely similar. So if you want to get into real estate and you're new, because obviously if you're watching this, you're a new investor, most likely, and then you want to start interacting with other people that are also interested in real estate. They don't all have to be investors, but they should have some passion about it, and you want to interact with them daily. It creates a type of co-action, right? There's a philosophy term is called co-action, and what that term means is that when an individual is surrounded by others who are doing all the same thing, they kind of get swept up in this group momentum that pushes them forward. The example that I use when I'm lecturing in traditional classes is that a person is lifting weights, and you're doing your bench press, and you're lifting the weights on your own, and you kind of max out. You want to test how much you can lift. You say, okay, and I got to 160 pounds by myself. That's my max weight I can lift. It's pretty good. But what happens then next week when that guy is surrounded by 2 or 3 of his other friends that are all working out, and he wants to now test and see what his max is, and those guys are there cheering him on. They all have the same philosophy. They're all geeked up about doing exercises and working out. Next thing you know, instead of his max truly being 160, the individual does his bench press, and he bench presses 180, 185. And he didn't realize he actually could get that high. What's the difference? The difference was the fact that he was surrounded by other people, and there was a co-action effect. Okay, so it's the same thing in real estate. Surround yourselves with people that are similar, who have similar passions about real estate. Engage with them, talk with them, be on the phone with them, develop friendships with those individuals. And lastly, this is a big one in my personal philosophy. I'm not saying everybody's going to agree with it. Matter of fact, if you probably go talk to a lot of the big time real estate investment organizations, they'll tell you something a little bit different. But I believe that you should get your hands dirty. I believe a fundamental part of being authentic, what I like to call an authentic real estate investor, is that you're not afraid to get in that house and do some work yourself. You're not afraid to invest in your own skills to be able to do some of the basic repair work. So you're going to buy a new house. I believe, this is just my philosophy, you'll hear this throughout my channel over and over again, that as a real estate investor, you should be able to install a ceiling fan, change out an electrical socket or switch. I believe that you should know how to lay floors. Now, I'm not saying you have to always do that for your houses. That's going to be up to you to decide that. But you should know how to replace a sink. You should know how to install a sink faucet. Okay, these are things that don't take much intellectual know-how to do. They don't take much time, but they can save you money over the long haul. Or they can save you money as you're trying to get your newly acquired property rent ready, or even going into a flip. Okay, because if you buy a nice sink faucet, they all install pretty much the same way. It's going to look just as nice if you installed it as if it was a plumber. And you may have saved yourself $100 to $150 on that installation charge. Multiply that by 4 or 5 sinks in the house, and you're beginning to constrict or reduce your repair budget. So these are just some words to live by in terms of my philosophy about real estate investing. Now let's get to some more slides here. Rental housing basics. So property analysis, property analysis, property analysis. There's a saying that says location, 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 and location is the most important thing. And location is very important. We're not going to dismiss that or discount it, but it's very important that we understand that your property analysis is arguably more important than location, location. Property analysis is you're investing in your ability to be able to look at a property and to determine whether that property can yield you financial benefit. And it's important for you to understand what type of financial benefit you're looking for. And in this particular lecture or slides, this particular presentation, we're talking primarily about rentals, buy and hold, long-term rentals. We could do keep an eye out for presentations on flipping, on wholesaling, and other ways, because their financial analysis process, while it has many similarities, what you're looking for is kind of different. But do your due diligence up front. You should make sure you should always buy the house right. Buy it right. Don't overpay for a property. If you're a brand new investor, you're just getting started, there's nothing wrong with paying market price for a property. And then bring your 20% down. You'll find that most properties, even if you're buying them at market price, but you put 20% down, that they're going to cash flow. They're going to cover their mortgage. You're going to be able to put a little money up for repairs and maintenance, and you're going to be okay. And if you do buy a property at market price, the odds of you having to get in to do any repairs is very low. Or you can negotiate those repairs during the purchase process. However, I do prefer, as most investors are going to tell you, to buy a house that needs some repair work to it. That way you can get in and do that repair work and increase the value of the property. But all that goes into doing your due diligence, understanding what the repair costs are, the time frame, how it's going to affect your financing, how are you going to pay for the repairs. If you're looking at doing the BRRRR method, and we could do another presentation talking about the BRRRR method a little bit later on. But then you're going to need to refinance that property afterwards. Maybe you can pull out some of the equity and use it to buy your next property. But there's a lot of different techniques. The bottom line is that before you buy any investment property, make sure you've taken the time to learn how to do a rental analysis so that you know you're getting a property that's good. Now, as I said before, real estate is it's not an overnight get rich investment type of program for most people. It's simply not. And if you're the average person out there, then I would encourage you to just take that and toss it from your mind. The average single family home will bring between $250 to $500 a month profit. Okay, the most common amount being around $300. So you can see right off, and you can buy 3 properties, you're only bringing in maybe $900 a month cash flow. And that's not going to retire you. That's not going to get you financially independent. You're going to have to put more time in to buy some additional properties. You have to know what your retirement number is. What I mean by retirement number is how much money does it take for you to live your current lifestyle or your desired lifestyle. And then you want to back into the number of properties you need to get to afford that lifestyle. It's very simple. Let's say it takes $6,000 a month for you to live and support yourself. Well, 6,000 divided by 300, that's how many properties you're going to need. I believe the number is 20, right? I didn't do the math ahead of time or anything like that. But so you're going to buy 20 properties so that you can generate that $6,000 a month. So that's your goal. Now, it's also important for you to understand your return on investment. These are all metrics that you would use to determine whether or not a property is a good purchase for you or not. So return on investment is ROI, and that's a simple financial formula where you just take the profit that you expect to make and divide that by the cost of the investment. And once again, we could do another presentation on property analysis and how I go about my analysis to determine if a property is good or not, because there's several indices. Return on investment is just one. You may want to look at your equity position on the property. You may want to look at your just your general cash flow as a solid dollar number, your cash on cash return. There's also some other expenses you want to consider whenever you're looking at property analysis, and that's going to be taxes, insurance, vacancies, repairs. And for those that are looking at small apartment buildings, you want to look at utilities. If you're talking about a 3-plex or a 4-plex, you're going to have some common areas where you're going to have to pay the utilities in those common areas. And some apartments like that I've currently own myself now, I actually take care of the electric bill and the heat bill for the entire building. So you want to factor all that stuff in to make sure that you're getting the profit that you need to get on the backside. Now let's talk about some benefits. Why is real estate a good investment? Why is everybody, for as long as we can remember, been championing real estate? Well, here's a couple reasons. One is property appreciation. Real estate very rarely goes down in value. Now, there may be some blips where the market is kind of fluctuating, but when we look at over time, real estate tends to appreciate and become more valuable, even in some of the slowest markets. And I've bought properties in some extremely slow markets where it felt like the property was never going to increase in value. And then I went back finally, and checked again and said, oh man, these properties here were selling for $80,000 a house. But now today they're selling for $120,000, $125,000 a house. So I just had to keep the properties long enough and appreciation set in. You also have mortgage pay down, which means that every month that you're making a mortgage payment, you're paying down the principal little by little. And most times people get a 30-year note after 30 years, you'll have that property paid off completely. Now, should you keep a property for 30 years? Absolutely not. And I say that because of the fourth item down here on the list, which is depreciation. You only get to depreciate a house for 27 and a half years. And then you no longer have the depreciation to help offset your taxes. So I'll talk about that in just a moment. So you want to make sure that you sell a property before you hit that 27 and a half year mark. That way you could buy another property, you take whatever equity, mortgage paid out, and you got maybe buy 2 properties or 3 properties, and then engage in your depreciation schedules again on your taxes. Rental income, if you're buying the property right, you should be making some money every month. And depending on the number of properties you have and how much you're cash flowing a month, you may be able to live off of that money in a very consistent, predictable manner. Okay, most people think about rental income when they think about getting properties, and being a real estate investor. And they don't necessarily think too much about these other ways that real estate provides financial benefit. Depreciation. Now, I'm not a tax accountant, so my definition here is not going to be as sophisticated as maybe an accountant would give you, but perhaps the basic level that I'll explain that will make sense to a lot of people. So first off, depreciation means that you buy an asset. Let's say I bought a computer. The idea is that that computer is worth less, 2 years from now. Think of a car. You say, oh, you paid $30,000 for this car. And as soon as you drove it off the lot, it's worth less than that $30,000. That's what we call depreciation. In a way of incentivizing people to buy real estate, particularly homes to live in, the government allows homeowners to take depreciation in account on their taxes. So basically, you get to reduce your taxable income by the depreciation of your rental properties. Okay, so meaning that, let's say I bought a property for $100,000, and once again, I haven't done the math beforehand, and I don't have a calculator on me right now, so we'll just kind of talk in general terms. But if I bought a $100,000 property, then I could write off that property over 27 and a half years. So just take that value of 100,000 divided by 27 and a half, and then you could take that dollar amount, whatever that dollar amount is, and reduce your taxable income by that. This is very helpful when you own several properties, right? Because you may own 5, 6, or 10 properties. You're going to be taking that depreciation. It's going to drop down your taxable income quite a bit. This is why a lot of real estate investors pay very little in terms of income tax, if any at all. And I can personally attest to that being a fact and being a person who can take advantage of those benefits. So don't let TV be your guide, right? And what I mean by that is that you hear so much on, I should say, YouTube be your guide. Take it with a grain of salt, right? Don't try to go out and find the biggest and best deal. It's kind of like this. There's only one Beyonce, and that means there's only one person that could be with her. So the best deal is something that everybody wants. Everybody's going to be chasing after it. What you're looking for is the deal that's good enough, the deal that fits your criteria. And when you find it, you move on it, okay? So don't worry about trying to find the best and the cheapest deal. Find the deal that works for your numbers. And once you hit your numbers, and make sure your numbers are realistic, but then go ahead and take that deal. If you want to find extremely deep discounted deals, then you're going to have to take some extra steps, right? It's not just going to the MLS and buying from a realtor. You're going to, if you want those deep discount deals, then you're going to need to work with wholesalers. You're going to need to be involved in your local real estate investor community and talking to people. You may have to even go out and do marketing directly to homeowners to try to see if there's a homeowner who is having financial difficulty. Maybe they're going through a divorce, or maybe they are about to get foreclosed on or something like that, and you could buy the house from them at a discount, okay? This is what wholesalers do. They find people like that who are in tough situations and they need to sell their house. The wholesaler then puts that house under a contract. They then find an investor, somebody like you or I, who is interested in buying a property. And then they sell that contract to that investor for a fee, okay? And wholesalers will make anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000 on average per transaction that they're able to help facilitate. Now, you want to work with an investment lender, That's going to be very important because you're going to have to move quickly on some of these deals. You want to work with investor-friendly contractors, and we'll do a whole other presentation on contractors, how to work with contractors and things like that. But there are contractors that are not at all good to work with as an investor. And then there are some contractors that are ideal to work with as an investor. Let me just give you a quick example, and this is real. This happened just today. I got a phone call from my property management company, an email stating that there's a problem with the plumbing in one of the properties and they're getting brown water. They sent their normal plumbing company out to take a look at it. And he said, hey, there's galvanized pipes. There's rust from the galvanized pipes that are coming in and getting in the water line. And that's what's causing the rust. And this was causing the decline in pressure. That plumber recommended that we change out, a couple of feet of galvanized piping with PEX and put in a new shower valve. And the bill that they sent for that work was $2,000. Now, if you know anything about this kind of work, you should know that $2,000 is an absolutely ridiculous price for that. But that's the price that the contractors from my property management company sent to me, which is a great thing that they cannot spend more than $300 without getting my direct permission. So I simply had one of my contractors go out who does work for me, and he's going to take care of the problem. He's going to get his subcontractor, which is a plumber, to go ahead and do the job. They'll take care of it, fix it up. And I haven't gotten the price yet back on that, but I can guarantee you it probably won't be more than $300 to $500. And that's to include probably fixing the tile and the tubs around and those types of things as well. So some investors work well. Some contractors work well with investors, others don't. You want to have your money ready to deploy, right, into the project, and remember that these deals generally must be completed quickly in order to avoid money. So if you're working with investment financing, meaning that you have a hard money lender or private money lender, then time is critical. That's why on a lot of these HGTV shows, they're stressing about time. They gotta get it done as quickly as possible, because every day that goes by, they're paying interest on literally, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're paying interest to a hard money lender on that. And oftentimes the hard money lender will want that money monthly. So the longer that house stays in repairs, the longer it sits on the market, the less money they make on those deals. That creates a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety. And speaking of stress, you're a first-time investor. You're brand new. Start simple. Keep it easy. Put yourself in a position where you can get an easy victory, right? Punt the ball, get to base, right? Don't try to get that big home run. So here's what I mean. Work with a real estate agent. Don't go out and try to be your own wholesaler. Don't go out and try to find all your own deals. Work with a real estate agent. Leverage their understanding of the marketplace. Working with a real estate agent is like getting free training. One, they're training you on the market. You're developing your farm area, the area where you're going to do your investing at. They're knowledgeable of it. They're sharing the numbers. They're telling you what the rental prices are, what the ARV or the after repair values are. They're sharing all that information with you for free. They're showing you how they calculate it. You can ask them whatever questions you want. They're willing to introduce you to their contractors, to their bank lenders, and all that kind of stuff. So that's a lot of free education, because when you do buy a house, it's the seller who actually pays the real estate agent, not you. So work with a local real estate agent. No, they're not going to be most likely deep into the real estate investment scene and work with wholesalers and stuff, but you don't need to be in that part of the pool just yet. Okay, next, work with a local bank. So yeah, you can definitely go to a Wells Fargo, a Chase, or some of these large national banks, and there's some benefits to that, of course. But if you're getting started, you're a brand new investor, you work within your city and your area. Work with some regional banks that are local to that area, because they're going to be easier to work with. And when you want to go get your next property, they're going to remember you by name. They're going to, oh, okay, hey, come on in. I remember you from last time. How's your property doing? Well, I'm doing great. And they're going to most likely ask you to open up a checking account there as well, so that the rental deposits can be deposited in that checking account. Whenever you're paying bills for the property, it can be taken out of that checking account. And if they ask that of you, you should do it. It's just facilitating the relationship. The more ties that you have with the bank, the more they see you as the person that's investing in them, So when it comes time for them to invest back in you, to give you another loan for another property, help you out with a line of credit or something like that, you're more likely to do so. Bring your down payment to the deal. Once again, we're talking about our new investors. There's so many different ways out there, and everybody's preaching no money down, infinite return, and all these strategies. Do they exist? Yes, they do. But though they exist with more advanced techniques, and those advanced techniques involve more risk. Think about it this way, you could lose more because you didn't put anything in it. So your costs are going to be more. Now, I could spend a whole lot of time talking about the opposite side of that, saying that if you put zero money in it and you got the deal, even if you lost the deal, you didn't lose any money. Yeah, but you lost credibility with everybody that was involved in that deal. So for your first couple deals, you just starting out, man, bring the down payment, save up your 20%, and then go buy the house that way. That's the most conservative way of approaching this, in a way that is surefire to work for you. Work with a reputable property management company. I strongly recommend, this is my preference, you'll see it all throughout my particular channel and in other videos. I strongly advocate working with a property management company. Being a successful manager of properties is a skill in and of itself, and most people do not possess that. Most people are not certified in that. So don't put yourself in a position where you're going to have to learn that the hard way. Get a property manager. They will also help track your finances for you, provide you with monthly reports, with yearly reports, with the documentation that you need at the end of the year to be able to file your taxes. They'll prepare all that stuff with you. And then purchase a property with very little construction need, just cosmetic stuff, nothing major. Maybe there's a hole in the wall. Maybe the house needs to be painted. Maybe you want to put new granite in. Easy stuff that can be done with one-off contractors. I'm not talking about hiring a general contractor to go and do everything for you. I'm saying one-off contractors that you can hire to do specific things, and then that house is ready to go. And then you can either move into it and rent out one of the rooms, or you can simply rent that house out on the market very quickly. Speaking of contractors, it's important to note that we can put contractors into two different groups, right? We have one group, which is a general contractor, and another group is a subcontractor. And like I said, we could do more slides on this later on, going into the details about each of those and what makes them unique and how to be successful working with both of them. Just to let the cat out of the bag, my personal preference is to work with subcontractors and not work with general contractors. But you have to watch from the other videos when I talk about contractors to find the reasons for that. A general contractor, this is an individual who will manage your entire repair job for you. So if there's plumbing or electrical, painting, carpentry that needs to be done on the job, he or she has individuals that he or she can call to come in and do that work. And then they manage those individuals. They will collect the money from you for the overall job, and then they will pay out their subcontractors. So they manage the process. And the nice thing about working with a general contractor is it's kind of one throat to choke. You got one person to go to. You're not going to 5 and 6 or 10 different contractors trying to find out what's going on, or why didn't they show up, or why isn't this done on time. You can go to that one person and hold them accountable for the work. That's also the bad thing, because that one person, if they are not as competent, then you deal with all their incompetencies throughout the entire job. If that one person is in some type of financial distress, which a lot of general contractors are, they experience financial difficulty because they're not good financial stewards of their own business. So inevitably, their financial difficulty translates into financial difficulty on your job. A lot of things here, a lot of bullets to talk about. We're not able to cover all those bullets just for the sake of time, but you can definitely pause the video and read through them. I recommend strongly, if you're going to work with a general contractor, that you have a contract, and that contract has penalties, and that as much as possible, you never pay money up front. And one technique to avoid the general contractor asking for money up front is to pay for the materials. Many of the contractors are going to say, I need 50% down, or I need 20% down to get started. I got to go out and buy the materials and this and that. So then you offer to pay for the materials for the contractors. And the only thing that he really needs to be worried about is the labor costs. And be assured that most small contractors, they're going to come in and ask, probably the first week of starting work, for money to pay for labor costs because their subs want to be paid almost weekly. And that's not unusual, but at least you got a week's worth of work and you could kind of gauge whether they're going to continue to show up and whether the work is of quality or not. Okay. And the last thing I'd say with that, or two things. One, make sure your general contractor has insurance. You want to have at least at a minimum liability insurance. And it's great if you had him and had each of the subcontractors sign a waiver of liability, meaning that if they got hurt on the job, that they won't sue you. Okay. But you want to make sure they have insurance at a minimum, that the contractor has insurance. Let's go on to talk about subcontractors. Subcontractors are the people that actually do the work. So these are the plumbers, the electricians, the carpenter, the foundation company, the window installer, the siding installer. These are the individuals that actually do the work on the house. I recommend that you work directly with them. So what you would do is prepare a scope of work for your job and then outline the contractors for each item on the scope of work. There may be some contractors that would have 3 or 4 items, and that's okay. There may be some contractors that only have 1 item. For example, the electrician, he may only come in to do the electrical work, and once he's done, he's gone. And you'll find that most electricians will come in, so if you're doing a flip or a rental job, they'll come in, they'll take care of the electrical work in 1 day. Same thing with your plumbers, 1 to 2 days, and it's all done. So you control the speed and how fast the job is going to get completed. You're also closer to the work, so you're able to better understand what's happening and why. You also don't have to worry about someone running off with your money, okay? So meaning that sometimes there are bad contractors out there that'll take that 20% down payment that you gave them and then never show up at all. And it's your responsibility to try to track that person down and try to sue them for the money, of which you're most likely never going to get, because if they had any integrity and they did good quality work, they would have money and they wouldn't be stealing from you. So there's a saying that I have that says, hurt people, and broke people break people. So if you're dealing with a broke contractor, maybe you didn't know that up front, they take your money and they run, or they do poor quality work and then are constantly demanding more and more money, even though the work is not progressing or the work is of poor quality. You need to fire that person right away, bite the bullet, stop the loss, because inevitably the amount of money you lose in that job is going to increase. Because broke people break people, and you're going to find your job being broken and then you losing money on that particular flip, or find yourself behind the 8 ball when it comes to getting that rental property refinanced and stuff. Now let's go back to dealing with subcontractors. It's a good idea to, on your list of, your role of contractors you work with, that you have 2 to 3 contractors per category. And you can sit down even before you have your first house and write out a list of all the categories, whether it be carpentry, flooring, granite installation, cabinets, plumbing. Write out all the categories you could possibly think of in a house, and then go out and begin to get 2 to 3 contractors for each category. Write their name and their phone number down. So now when you have your house and you need to have the floors done or the windows done or whatever it is you need to have done, you know which contractor to call, and you're calling them for that specific reason. The last thing I would say to you is, or second to last thing I'd say to you is, be careful about working with subcontractors that say they can do everything. Very rarely do you find somebody that's good at everything. Now, if they say, hey, I'm a subcontractor, but I have a cousin that does tile, and can I do the tile job? But I have a cousin that does the tile work, then that's a little bit different. But you got one guy who shows up and he could do sheetrock repair and texture, as well as painting and running floors and baseboards and installing doors. Chances are he could do some of those things quite well, and other things he's not going to do very well. I find it much more appropriate to hire painters to do painting work, to hire sheetrock people or people who specialize in matching texture to do texture work, to hire a flooring guy to do the flooring, and vice versa, right? So, and so on and so forth. So beware of those jack of all trades. Use them only for what you know they're good at, and then give the other work to other subcontractors. And the last thing I'd say here is, don't be afraid to pull permits. A lot of times investors want to skip the process. They don't want to pull permits. They figure they can do the work really quickly before the city will know. Pulling permits actually protects you as an investor. Sure, it may slow the job down because you got to wait for the guy to come out and inspect the work. But what you do is you have a second pair of eyes of a very experienced person looking over that job, making sure it was done to code. And that protects you in the event of a lawsuit or if somebody gets hurt. It just makes sure that the job is being done very well across the board. So when possible, I encourage you, pull permits and require the contractor to meet with the permit person and then ensure that job is done correctly. Oh, and one other point I want to bring up here is be willing to stand up for yourself. If a contractor is not doing their job right or you suspect any type of difficulty, fire them. Fire them first and then go get somebody new to do the work. And this is a general rule of thumb. I've learned it the hard way, is that you're getting a lot of excuses. The work is not being done correctly or on time or whatever else. And you want to keep working with that contractor because you've already given them some money. You're already into the job with them. So you just want to kind of see it through. Listen, it's kind of like ripping a Band-Aid off when you got to take that Band-Aid off. Do it quick, do it fast. When you're running into a situation where a person is showing you that they can't do the job or you suspect that they can't do the job, the best thing for you to do is to let them go and then go find someone who can. Even if it requires a loss of profit or a loss of money at that point in time, it is better that you finish a job and get it done well than to go through and have that story that so many of us investors have about sticking with a contractor too long and that contractor still wasn't able to get the job done the way we needed to. All right, so let's talk about the steps here in getting started. We're going to walk through these. The first step for a newbie investor is to find a good realtor. Make sure that he or she is investor friendly. This is important because some realtors, they don't know the first thing about investing. Ideally, you want to have a real estate agent who has some investment properties him or herself. That way they're familiar with the process. Number two, find a local bank and get pre-approved for the loan. And once again, I'm talking about a traditional brick and mortar type bank, or you can use Quicken if you want, but find yourself a traditional bank because they're going to give you more favorable terms and you can build a better relationship with them. They're probably going to ask you for 20% down, and that's okay. But the interest rate that they charge you will most likely be between 3.5% to 6% for that investment property, which basically guarantees your ability to make cash flow on that unit. Find a house to purchase. So here's where you need to truly invest in your KSAs and make sure you know how to do property analysis. Start looking around, talking to people, get involved in your local networks, your local real estate, investing networks. Keep your ear to the ground, and you will find a property. When you find one and it passes your financial analysis, it's important that you act on it. Number four, put that house under contract and begin your investigations. You're a new investor. You're not really sure what to do or what you're looking at. You wouldn't know an electrical box was wired correctly, if it hit you in the face. So get a license and a certified property inspector. And this is very simple. You may pay them $150. That person's going to go through the house. It is a very good idea for you to be with them when they do that. So when they go through the house, that way you're getting, once again, it's free education. You're paying this guy $150 and he's going to spend 3 to 4 hours with you going through the house in detail, crawling through the attic, looking at the electrical, and you're going to be right there next to him. And they're going to be teaching you everything you need to know about how to look at houses. And I recommend, getting that property inspection probably for your first 4 or 5 properties until you feel like you're able to handle the inspection on your own once you get some more experience behind you. If there's something that they find that concerns you, then you go get one of the subcontractors from your list to come and do a more detailed inspection. So let's say, for example, the property inspector gives you a report and they say, we suspect there's some problem with the galvanized piping in the wall, and this is what we think is going on. He or she, as a property inspector, they're never going to tell you something guaranteed unless they know it for sure. They'll just tell you that they suspect something and then you should have it further checked out. That's what they do. They're kind of like your early alarm system. So what you do next is you bring in a plumber to do, to have a further look at that particular issue. You bring in an electrician to have a closer look. You bring in a carpenter or somebody else to have a closer look at whatever is getting pointed out by the property inspector. I also think it's a really good idea to bring your property management company to the property. Matter of fact, I fully support the idea of having the property management company that you're going to use sign off on your purchase decision before you actually buy the property, right? So as part of your inspection period, as part of your period where you could rescind your offer, get your property management company in there even before you make an offer and have them look at the property. They can look at the numbers, they could drive by the property, and they can let you know whether it's a property that they would like to manage or not. They can let you know whether or not they think that they can manage it successfully, or is this going to be a problem property based on the neighborhood and the types of people that they believe they can rent to. They can also let you know, they'll do a rental analysis, let you know what they think they can rent the property out for, and you could use that as part of your analysis. Get your management company involved early. Okay. The next step is to close on the property. So here you have your financing, everything lined up with the bank, and you're going to closing. Use a title company. Always, always, always use a title company. And there's going to be some times where you go, oh, this title has a little bit of problems. Let's just buy the property outside the title. Don't do it, because if someone comes along later on and they claim ownership to that property, and you don't have you can't prove or substantiate clear title, then you're going to be in for a legal battle. And you may be looking at, I could spend $20,000 on a legal battle, or I could just write this person a check for 10 grand and hope that they'll take that and leave. Either way, you still lose. So especially as a new investor, only buy properties with clear title, and only buy them through certified property management companies. Okay. Go ahead and list your property for rent, or have them, your management company go ahead and take care of that for you. Because the house only needs a handful of repairs, you probably could have it ready to go within a couple weeks. So talk to your property management company. They could be getting ready to have the property listed for rent. And then you want to have money set aside for your taxes and insurance. Now, this is assuming that the property is not escrowed. And what I mean by escrow is that when you're making your monthly payment, that monthly payment may, if the property is escrowed, it may include your principal and interest for sure. That's going to include that. But it may also include money that they collect, that the mortgage company collects from you monthly for taxes and insurance. And in those cases, the mortgage company will pay the taxes and insurance from you because they're collecting the appropriate amount every month. So they take whatever the taxes is. Let's say the taxes are $1,200, and they're collecting $100 from you every month as part of your mortgage. So when the time for taxes come around, they'll simply pay the taxes. Same thing for insurance. If you don't have an escrow, and there are some banks or some lending organizations that will not collect escrow, I have loans with some of them now, then it's your responsibility to save money every month to make sure that when tax time comes, you have enough money to pay the taxes. So, and then you want to think about vacancy. And vacancy is, listen, no matter how good your property is, how attractive it is, how nicely renovated it is, there's going to be some point in time when nobody is living there, when you're not making rental income. This happens most frequently between when a tenant is leaving and then your cleanup, and now you're marketing to get a new tenant. We call that vacancy, the time that your property is actually vacant. So as a good rule of thumb, it's good to just assume you're going to have 5 to 10% vacancy. So factor that into your budget. So what I would encourage you to do is to put up 10 to 15% of your rent into a savings account, and that's for maintenance and repairs plus vacancy. So when we think about your single family home or your small apartment complex, how much rental income, you kind of do the numbers, and you've seen enough of these deals, you begin to realize pretty quickly that your repairs and maintenance combined are going to be somewhere, the amount of 10 to 15% of your rental income. So you might as well take that money, set it aside in the savings account every month. Just take it right out of the rental income, set it aside in the savings account, and let it sit there and stack up. And then when you have vacancy and you need to pay the mortgage, you can take the money from that account and pay the mortgage. Similarly, when you have a repair, you can take money from that account and pay your repair bills. Last step here is the best, the most fun, is repeat the process. And I can tell you one thing, once you get started doing real estate investing, it's kind of an addictive, thing. You get a little bit of a high and you want to go do it again, right? So take the cash flow, the profit from your the house you just purchased, set it aside. Don't go spending it. Don't go try to live off of it now. Set it aside into a savings account. And then what money you're able to save from your day-to-day job, save that too. Add them together, and you'll see that before you know it, you'll have enough money set aside for a down payment on your next house. And you just simply continue to repeat that process. That's the most basic, fundamental way of getting started and getting to a place of financial independence. So keep money in your business savings account for your repairs and vacancy. Keep an eye on the local market so that you know what the housing prices are and how much it's going to cost to get a new property. Increase your rent accordingly. So every year, or whenever the term comes, sometimes you can even build in rental increases directly into your lease. Like the rent's going to increase by 2% every year, no matter what. You can build that in, or just keep an eye on the market, and when it's time to renew the lease, increase your rental income and increase the rent on your tenant. And then lastly, work with a local accountant, to track your real estate income and to provide you with the tax support that you need at the end of the year. And I can't stress how important this is. Even though you may only have one house, still work with a local accountant, because as you get 2, 3, 5, 6, 10 houses and you're growing, having your accounting and everything started off the right way, it just keeps you right throughout the whole way. And it makes your life so much easier. It's one of those things that I wish someone had told me when I was younger getting started, and I could have had clean financials throughout my early investing period and really understood what was going on, how much money I was making and so forth. From a long-term perspective, I'm just going to make a couple of assumptions here. Is that you purchase a new house every 2 years. This is just to kind of show you how you can get to a place of financial retirement with real estate. So if you're looking at buying a house, a $100,000 house, it's going to be $20,000 down payment. So that's your goal. Every 2 years, save up $20,000. And you should be able to do that with a combination of the rental income you have from your existing houses, plus whatever money you can set aside for savings. And refer back to what I said about looking at the FIRE movement and how they are mentoring and coaching people to reduce their living expenses so they can save more aggressively. Take that money you save, put it with the real estate the income from your real estate properties that you have now, and go ahead and get yourself a new property every 2 years. You'll find out that pretty soon, within say 10 years or so, you're going to be able to use just the profit alone from your rental properties to buy your new properties. And now it's self-funding, okay? And that will get you to retirement even quicker. So if you're following this pattern of buying a house every 2 years, we're just saying the houses are $100,000, and they're appreciating at 3% a year, which is very reasonable. And the financial requirement for financial independence. So the amount of money you need to have for financial independence is $5,000 a month. Basically, you'll be very close to being there within 10 years. 5 houses, you'll have $600,000 worth of equity. You have 5 houses worth approximately $600,000. You have an equity position of almost $200,000 in the properties, a monthly profit of $4,000 per house, giving you $2,000 passive income. So you're on your way to being there. In 10 years, you'll have enough passive income to purchase a house every year. Just take the profit that you're bringing in and then use that as a down payment on the next house, okay? The aforementioned information, it doesn't account for taxes, savings, and refunds. You'll find that your refund amount for taxes will increase dramatically because of depreciation, because of the operating costs that you get to write off from having the real estate, okay? And depending on the loan that you choose, the houses could be paid off in less than 30 years, okay? For all investments come with risk, all right? So it's important to note that even though we're talking about real estate and how it is a very solid, it's a very solid approach to achieving financial independence, it still is not without its risk, okay? So you wanna step into it knowing that and really focus on following the basic rules in order to keep you safe with your financial investing. Thank you for watching. There are more advanced techniques, but with them, requires more work and more risk. I recommend that as a newbie investor, you start off by just safely gaining experience and then working slowly into those more advanced techniques, and you'll see that your money will begin to compound even faster. Thank you very much, and thank you for taking the time to watch the videos. I ask you to like and subscribe to the video if you found it helpful, and I'll see you next time.